On May 23, 2008, Jeffrey Epstein wrote his accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell an email and asked her, question, which one do you prefer, lewd and lascivious conduct or procuring minors for... To which Ghislaine Maxwell responded matter-of-factly, saying, I suppose lewd and lascivious conduct. I would prefer lewd and lascivious conduct with a... if possible. And remember, to this very day, Ghislaine is still claiming to public officials here in America that she is an innocent woman. Recently, Bloomberg News published the results of their months-long investigation into a treasure trove of over 18,000 emails sent and received by an email address owned and operated by none other than Jeffrey Epstein. And the contents of these emails is not only shocking, but it's deeply revealing, and it exposes the fact that Ghislaine Maxwell recently lied directly to officials in the Trump administration during her recent, completely interview with Todd Blanche. And today we're going to examine those leaked emails, and I'm going to tell you exactly what they tell us. You see, in the shadowy corridors of power, wealth, and depravity, few figures loom as large and as enigmatic as Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted whose life was a tapestry woven from multi-million-dollar deals, elite friendships, and the systemic of over 1,000 young children, according to the U.S. Justice Department. And these emails that were recently obtained by Bloomberg News provide a window into the mind of an absolute bona fide psychopath. These 18,000 emails were taken from Jeffrey Epstein's personal Yahoo account and were obtained and meticulously vetted by Bloomberg News through cryptographic analysis, metadata scrutiny, and corroboration with external sources, as confirmed by 4 independent experts. And reading through these emails gave me a sense of profound unease and yet at the same time revelation. There are some really shocking details revealed in these emails, and it seems to me like nobody's talking about this. I mean, this video is going to blow your mind. These emails, spanning from 2002 to 2022, but most active between 2005 and 2008, offer an unfiltered portal into Epstein's mind. The messages are riddled with typos, unfinished thoughts, and missing punctuation, yet they're brimming with chilling details that expose his idiosyncrasies, his indignation during investigations, and his callous disregard for the young women and children that he exploited. These emails, now that they've been exposed, also dismantle the carefully constructed, false narrative provided by Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's longtime associate and convicted accomplice, who's currently serving that 20-year prison sentence after her 2021 jury conviction for recruiting and women for Epstein's and the of other rich and powerful men. Ghislaine Maxwell, since the start of this whole thing, has persistently tried to distance herself from the affair, portraying her role as that of a one-time girlfriend turned mere property manager, oblivious to Epstein's vast influence machine and his operation, a claim that she once again falsely reiterated during a 2-day July interview with Department of Justice officials, including Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. Yet, the emails we're going to talk about today paint a picture of a partnership far more intimate and complicit. Maxwell herself opened at least one foreign bank account using one of Epstein's addresses, served as a named director on one of his main revenue-generating companies, and traded stock in a company that they were both invested in, details that had not been previously reported on until this cache of emails surfaced. In fact, Epstein and Maxwell even discussed undergoing shared fertility procedures long after Maxwell herself claimed to have largely disassociated from Epstein. And they also corresponded about strategies to discredit women who raised allegations against them, including one exchange where Ghislaine Maxwell herself stated that she explicitly planned to circulate compromising information on one of Epstein's victims in order to discredit the alleged victim. They also exchanged at least 650 emails covering topics from mundane logistics like moving a 40-pound tortoise to and from Epstein's private Caribbean island to profound personal matters that rose up amidst his crumbling empire. But where did these emails come from exactly? Well, this Yahoo account, one of multiple that Epstein used for different purposes over the years, provides a raw, unpolished vantage point into the life of a serial and illuminates how Epstein leveraged his wealth and sprawling social network from Wall Street to Washington to Westminster to fend off grave criminal allegations. In one email chain, for example, Epstein waxes poetic about the genetics of beauty, that's a quote, with a respected neuroscientist. And in another email chain, he showers praise onto the various women in his life, writing specifically, "You are the most important person to me," to his assistant, Nadia Marcinkova, whose lawyer has described her as being a victim of Epstein's. However, in another email chain, Epstein goes on to berate Nadia, that same assistant that he said was the most important person to him, in a scathing 425-word diatribe, attacking her verbally for her reluctance to dance, work out, engage in, quote, fun things, and manage his stress, concluding with the statement, "You should be ashamed of yourself." In another instance, Jeffrey Epstein voiced his incredibly blunt displeasure after a female contact sent him a photograph of a 21-year-old woman and asked him, "What do you think?" Included in that email was a photograph of a woman of Asian heritage. Epstein's response to the photo, quote, "Fat and Asian, sorry," end quote. This exchange perfectly encapsulates Epstein's callous objectification of women and his view of them only as objects, not as people. Throughout the emails, details of Epstein's personal life also emerge in mundane yet chilling fragments. For example, emails show over 600 different Amazon purchases, including orders for, get this, an FBI agent costume, teeth whitener, a leather bullwhip, a pair of size 12 Crocs, a prostate massager, girls' school uniforms, and a box of Nabisco Nilla mini wafers. I mean, what I just told you is insane. This is Jeffrey Epstein ordering an FBI agent costume, a box of vanilla mini wafers, little schoolgirls' school uniforms, a prostate massager. It's incredibly bizarre stuff and deeply disturbing. And these purchases, just looking at the Amazon purchases, paint a portrait of a man whose banal consumer habits coexisted with his own dark predatory behaviors. The emails also highlight Epstein's confusion, defensiveness, and his willingness to fight back as the investigations seemingly closed in on him, demonstrating his strategic maneuvering to beat back allegations and his enduring ties to power, all while leading a double life as a who countless thousands of young victims. Delving deeper into the emails, we can see that they reveal Ghislaine Maxwell's role in Epstein's life and operation extended far beyond being simply a property manager. And these emails show definitively that Ghislaine Maxwell was deeply embedded in Epstein's financial and personal affairs. Like I said before, even opening up foreign bank accounts under his address. And the correspondences even include discussions of shared fertility procedures. Essentially, Maxwell wanting to have Epstein's sperm so that she could have Epstein's baby. They were trying to have a fertility procedure done on Maxwell so that she could have a little mini Epstein. One of these emails came through just days after the October 20th, 2005 raid on Epstein's Palm Beach home by the police. And in this email, Ghislaine Maxwell sent Epstein detailed instructions saying, "You can do the sample at home." She also added that it has to be within 90 mins of my procedure and that all the must be collected. This message highlights Epstein and Maxwell's intimate collaboration, long after her claimed disassociation from Epstein, which she says happened in 2003. I mean, to me, it's just absolutely bananas. It's insane that she tries to say that they basically cut ties in 2003 and that's it, when we know that they were documented to have been working together for years, over a decade after that. And keep in mind this whole time, like when Todd Blanche interviewed Ghislaine Maxwell, just in July of this year, she actually said that claim, essentially that it was 2003 when we finished and that was it, 2003 and we were done. But these emails are just, they're so telling. For example, 8 months later after that initial email that was just revealed about Epstein and Maxwell going through a fertility procedure, amidst a medical emergency at Epstein's New Mexico ranch, Epstein emailed his assistant crediting Ghislaine Maxwell for helping to save his life. "I was very ill. I almost fainted today. I needed oxygen. Ghislaine came to help," he said, thus sending an email that illustrates Ghislaine Maxwell's role in Epstein's personal crises and his life itself, which was unfolding at the very same time that the investigation into Epstein and Palm Beach was underway, which was, at the time, uncovering the fact that minors had been paid anywhere from $200 to $1,000 for massages that turned into. There's also another email shared between Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell about another fertility procedure, this time sent on September 19th, 2007. This email was sent during Epstein's ongoing plea deal negotiations and criminal case, and also while Ghislaine Maxwell was allegedly in a relationship with tech billionaire Ted Waite, which she claims lasted from 2003 to 2010, which she actually cited to Deputy Attorney General Blanche in July as being evidence that she was separated and detached from Epstein at the time, which we can see clearly is a lie. She told him in that interview with the Trump administration in July that She was dating this guy from 2003 to 2010, so there's no way that she had any close relationship with Epstein, and yet these emails are showing that she's with Epstein on Zorro Ranch, saving his life. She's talking to him about fertility procedures, filling herself with Epstein's so that she can have Epstein's baby. I don't know how you could get any closer than that. I mean, that's like really the closest of the close. Creating a child together, I really don't know how two people could be closer than that. And this email read in 2007, your cup and instructions are in the Oval Room. The sample has to be dropped off at 10 and you have to fill out the forms. I would have filled them for you, but I was not sure what you wanted to put on them. Let me know if you need/want me to do anything. GPS. My email is changed to Gmax redacted. Please make a note. This incredibly practical and friendly tone used by Ghislaine here when writing to Epstein about fertility forms and semen drop-offs reveals to the average reader the deep, ongoing personal entanglements between Ghislaine and Jeffrey. Ghislaine herself, over email, also sought Jeffrey Epstein's advice on her own Bear Stearns shares as the 2008 financial crisis loomed, showing that she still valued his input and deeply trusted him. As Epstein prepared for jail, emails show Ghislaine Maxwell helping wind down his empire, asking him questions like, if you're in jail, should I sell your Bentley and your Sikorsky helicopter? Do I fire some of your staff? Who do I fire if I fire them? What do I do with the Paris apartment? These emails, when examined, seem to show that Ghislaine Maxwell's role in Epstein's life blended operational oversight with emotional support, almost like a romantic partner who's also your business partner and manager, which is exactly what the two were to each other. These details, previously unreported, and these emails, previously unseen, contribute to questions, obviously, about Ghislaine Maxwell's credibility in her DOJ interview, where her attorney, David Marcus, did not respond to inquiries about contradictions between these exchanges and her statements. The emails also provide readers with a sort of granular insight into Ghislaine Maxwell's involvement in Epstein's legal defenses. For example, on May 23, 2008, Epstein wrote Ghislaine Maxwell an email and asked her, quote, question, which one do you prefer, lewd and lascivious conduct or procuring minors for amidst the closing of a generous plea deal with Florida officials, to which Maxwell responded matter-of-factly saying, I suppose lewd and lascivious conduct. I would prefer lewd and lascivious conduct with a if possible. And this demonstrates Ghislaine Maxwell's strategic input on the charges that ended up leading to Epstein's guilty plea just a month later for felony solicitation of and procurement of minors. This, once again, completely contradicts Ghislaine Maxwell's claims to Todd Blanche in her recent prison interview of her being completely kept in the dark about this mid-2000s case. She said that she had no idea what was going on. She had no relationship with Epstein at the time. She was completely distant. She wasn't following the trial and the charges. She had no involvement in it. But according to these emails, Ghislaine herself seemed to have helped to strategize very consequential details while Epstein's star-studded defense team negotiated. In mid-2007, during secret high-stakes talks, which culminated in a September non-prosecution agreement that was sealed for 2 years, Jeffrey Epstein updated Ghislaine Maxwell on a 2-year prison offer, writing her over email and saying, did not go well, 2 years. This once again shows that Maxwell was intimately kept in the loop throughout this time in Epstein's life. On September 24, 2007, the signing day which reduced Epstein's sentence to 18 months, of which he only served 13, Ghislaine Maxwell emailed Epstein in an emotional state, saying, I'm sad, scared, and depressed. I can't shake it. Her words here conveyed a sort of raw vulnerability, demonstrating that Ghislaine Maxwell did indeed have a very deep investment into Epstein's fate and was very, very deeply tied into the entire affair. I'm sure that she was afraid that they'd come after her next too. As jail loomed over Epstein's head like a dark cloud in June of 2008, Ghislaine Maxwell once again emailed him, attempting to comfort him. The email sent on Tuesday, June 24, 2008 at 8:02 p.m. read, I'm devastated. I can't even process. I know this does not help, so I'll stop now. And obviously, we can see this is almost a window into the mind of a when half of the operation is being put in prison for the crimes committed by the both of them. The day before June 30th, when Epstein was supposed to turn himself in and start serving his sentence, Ghislaine Maxwell emailed him again and offered practical advice. The message, sent on Sunday, June 29th, 2008 at 12:51 p.m. said, you should consider taking Metamucil with you if you can. You don't need to be any unhappier than necessary. Smiley face. This almost whimsical suggestion, finished off with a very creepy smiley face, is almost a motherly seeming suggestion from Ghislaine Maxwell to Jeffrey Epstein to ease his anxiety and comfort as he's about to go to jail, highlighting her nurturing role in Epstein's life amidst his rapidly unfolding legal crises. Also, keep in mind, in July of 2025, Ghislaine Maxwell told Todd Blanche, a representative from the Trump administration, that after 2003, she barely had any contact with Epstein and was barely in his life. Now, we know that that's, but we can literally see with our own eyes through these emails that that is complete and utter. In fact, Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein exchanged at least one email per day in early 2008, sometimes exchanging more than one email per day, totaling 203 emails sent between the two of them in just the first 6 months of the year. And the subjects and contents of these emails ranged from Ghislaine sharing stories with Epstein about her exotic travels in Bhutan, Panama, and Kiribati, to photos from a February 2008 Panama Marine expedition, and even talk about a May 2008 Amelia movie set in Canada. And obviously, all these emails and messages paint Ghislaine Maxwell out to be an active, indispensable partner and mainstay in Jeffrey Epstein's life, long after she said that they grew apart and she severed the tie between the two of them. But this is just the beginning. Even post-indictment, post-prison term, the emails in Epstein's inbox show that Ghislaine Maxwell continued leveraging she and Epstein's high society ties in order to try expand Epstein's network of academics, politicians, actors, bankers, and heads of state. For example, in some emails, Ghislaine passes on greetings to Jeffrey Epstein from celebrities like Tommy Hilfiger and Martha Stewart. And disturbingly, she even writes to Epstein about the time that she was allowed to visit the set of James Cameron's Avatar while they were filming for the movie. I mean, this stuff really just gets sicker and sicker the more that you think about it and the more that you read. I mean, visiting the set of Avatar with James Cameron's blessing. That's a detail that when I first read it, I was like, oh my God, that is so just like crazy. And just, it is. You always think it can't get any deeper. And then you read this and these disclosures are made and then you realize it just continues to get deeper and we'll never hit the bottom. The bottom doesn't exist. It's a never-ending black pit of debauchery and terror and crime. On December 29th, 2006, as Sergey Brin and Anne Wojcicki were in the Caribbean for New Year's, Ghislaine Maxwell emailed Jeffrey Epstein and told him, "Be nice to her, not stupid. She is interested in mapping DNA, etc. She is key," smiley face. With that previous email being so casual and even ending with, again, a creepy smiley face, we can see that Ghislaine was encouraging Epstein to exude a sense of hospitality to his high-profile guests, making sure that Epstein would play the part of the almost romantic bachelor, the really nice guy, the hospitable host. And it's also very interesting that she refers to someone as being key because of her interest in DNA mapping. Now, we know that Epstein was performing bizarre human cloning and genetic modification procedures at his Zorro Ranch property. So this email is inherently, at least to me, very interesting with the mention of DNA mapping and someone being key to the process. An email sent by Epstein to one of his assistants days later also confirmed that he was on the island with Brin, showing that the trip really did, according to the emails, happen. At around the same time, Bill Richardson's office emailed Ghislaine Maxwell about using Epstein's jet for a Sudan peace mission and said, "Ghislaine, half the price of a charter plane to Khartoum would be around $183,000. Is this possible?" She then forwarded this message to Epstein's email address, prompting Epstein's enthusiastic reply of, "Have him call me today," with 2 exclamation marks. This request from Bill Richardson to use Epstein's jet was previously unknown before the release of these emails, though it is known that Richardson ended up using S. Daniel Abraham's jet instead, per a 2007 Washington Post article. Bill Richardson himself was later named by a victim as being one of Epstein's ring clients, and later in life he denied a victim's allegation that Ghislaine Maxwell instructed the minor to have before he died in 2023. Emails also cryptically reference 3 meetings between Ghislaine Maxwell and a Clinton between 2006 and 2008, with the goal being for Ghislaine Maxwell to promote her Terramar project through the Clinton Global Initiative. These emails also show that Ghislaine had close ties to a man named Doug Band, a Clinton aide. In early 2006, Doug Band emailed Ghislaine Maxwell inquiring about a potential Indianapolis flight for a basketball game. Ghislaine offered to provide the flight for free, but then for some reason, Doug declined. Maxwell then, over email, shared the story with Epstein, who instructed Ghislaine to pay for Doug Band's flight anyways. Also, there's a December 2005 flurry of emails that detailed the purchase of a $35,000 Puget watch for Clinton aide Doug Band, with Ghislaine Maxwell in the email informing Jeffrey Epstein 4 days before Christmas that she'd purchased the $35,000 watch. The emails read, from Maxwell, bought the watch for Doug for $35,000. Wiring the money today, G. Then Epstein responds, good. Make sure he gets it for Xmas. And finally, Ghislaine writes Epstein back saying, what do you want the note to say? Is it from you, from me, from us? To which Epstein replied, us. Now, Doug Band's spokesperson, after these emails were discovered, denied chartering Epstein and Maxwell's plane and receiving the watch, noting that he was the one, allegedly, who directed the removal of Ghislaine Maxwell from Clinton's orbit upon the accusations against her coming up. Then there's the 2007 accountant's email, which is incredibly telling. And this is really the main focus of the emails, at least in my opinion. This email from this accountant in 2007 comes with an attached spreadsheet, which itemizes nearly 2,000 different gifts and payments made by and sent by Epstein, totaling $1.8 million from 2003 to 2006, with notations that resemble the letters GM or Ghislaine Maxwell on over 250 entries, meaning, I'm assuming, that Ghislaine Maxwell facilitated the payments, she handled the payments, she got the payments done, she was personally involved with those over 250 different entries and gifts and payments. The gifts on the spreadsheet too are incredibly telling. For example, there was a $71,000 Lexus vehicle that was purchased at a Watertown dealership for infamous attorney Alan Dershowitz, a part of Jeffrey Epstein's legal team, who, when confronted about this, later on said that this car purchase wasn't a gift from Epstein and Maxwell. It was for his wife and was a part of the fee to pay off Epstein's legal fees. Now, why they wouldn't just give Dershowitz the money and why they would buy a car for him, it makes no sense. Then there was an $11,000 Rolex purchased in August 2003 for Tom Barack, Donald Trump's longtime friend and the current U.S. ambassador to Turkey, who has publicly denied receiving any gift like this. However, in the 18,000 email dump, one can find a May 2006 email from Tom Barack's assistant to Epstein's assistant, requesting a meeting time change due to something urgent. The email states, to be precise, Tom would be willing to meet him at his home or office, whatever works. Epstein suggested the two meet at his home, and we don't know what happened after that or what they were meeting about. There's also a December 21st, 2005 entry on the spreadsheet for a $35,000 watch gifted to a mysterious DB, and other purchases including over $130,000 in ATV vehicles purchased and gifted to Les Wexner, a $47,000 Steinway piano purchased and gifted to an unnamed individual, and a $60,000 diamond necklace and ear clips purchased at Sotheby's and gifted directly to Ghislaine Maxwell herself. There are also dozens of entries on this spreadsheet detailing gifts or payments made to various women, who are listed or written down, curiously, only by their first names, with memos and notes attached to each payment like gifts for the girls or JE Gifts Girls. Later in life, many victims would testify that they were recruited into Epstein's operation by Ghislaine Maxwell herself, who recruited teenagers in the 1990s and 2000s via offers of fully paid scholarships and expensive shopping trips and gifts and money. Ghislaine also saw the recruitment of Epstein's own assistants, and the assistants would play their own part in the operation, acting as the sometimes schedulers for Epstein's clients' massages. So the assistants, even though they ended up being victims themselves, also were like playing the parts of schedules for sessions. They were handling, that part of the operation under Ghislaine Maxwell's, watchful eyes. So we can assume that all of these payments, or at least most of them on the spreadsheets that are listed as going to girls with just a first name, as being payments going to minors, the victims of Epstein and Maxwell's. And I'm assuming these payments were sent to them in exchange for having with various high-profile, powerful men. One victim, whose identity has been withheld, who was listed on this spreadsheet, had over 80 entries on the spreadsheet attributed to them, totaling over $75,000 in payments and gifts, including a gift of a fully paid tuition and opportunity to study abroad, Thai massage lessons, a new laptop, 5 Western Union wires, and more. So if you take a step back and think about that, one victim, 80 entries. That, I'm assuming, means she was probably as a minor 80 different times. To these powerful men who have never been held accountable for this 80 different times. One victim, when talking about Epstein later on, referred to the process of the recruitment into the operation as follows, saying, quote, "Jeffrey Epstein was all about control. First, complete isolation. Once he was in control of my location, he had control of everything. Everything from finances to belief systems to even more perverse things like attire, vocabulary, exercise routine, and all of their daily activities. The manipulation was endless, instilling fear from all angles," end quote. In 2004, there's a payment seen on the spreadsheet of $10,000 sent, curiously, to future Epstein accuser Johanna Sjöberg's father. Eventually, Sjöberg filed legal action against Ghislaine Maxwell and alleged that Ghislaine Maxwell recruited her when she was very young as a student for with powerful men. Sjöberg also alleged that Prince Andrew groped her at a townhouse in the presence of Ghislaine Maxwell at a meeting set up by Epstein and Maxwell, and an anonymous source close to Sjöberg and her family actually stated in the past that large payments that were being made to Sjöberg from Maxwell and Epstein to her own family members prevented her from leaving or escaping the situation. So essentially, Epstein and Maxwell seem to be sending these payments to Johanna's, the victim's, father. Almost, I'm not alleging anything, but it's almost like he's his own kid to Epstein and Maxwell, and they're paying him to stay silent about it. These allegations about this and these payments were made a while ago. After this was all published, when journalists reached out to Sjöberg's father, he declined to comment. There's also Epstein accuser Carolyn Andriano, who has testified that Ghislaine Maxwell arranged the encounters between herself and her, that Maxwell fondled her without consent, and even told her that she, quote, "had a great body for Mr. Epstein," end quote. Carolyn also said that after or before these encounters that Maxwell set up between her and these older, more powerful men while she was underage, Maxwell would hand her $300 as a crude form of payment. Disturbingly, the spreadsheet also seems to confirm these payments to be a reality as well, and it also shows a Victoria's Secret gift that was purchased on January 6th, 2003, and marked down on the spreadsheet as having been given to Carolyn. However, at the time that she was gifted this, what I'm assuming is bra or lingerie, Carolyn would have just turned 16 years old. And unfortunately, and somewhat suspiciously, it should also be noted that Carolyn died of an in the year 2023. Assistants of Epstein's like Nadia Marcinkova, who are now described as having been victims, also appear on the spreadsheet and in the emails. At one point, Nadia, Epstein's assistant, emailed Epstein about a Swedish woman, saying she says she can do Thai massage, she is not cute enough for anything else, 19. In response to this email, Epstein replied, saying, "The Swede doesn't look so fat." Later on, Nadia's attorney, Erica Dubno, when questioned about her client's former association with Epstein, would state Jeffrey Epstein was a master manipulator. He physically and emotionally dehumanized and completely controlled her for years. He coerced Nadia and referred to her as his slave. There's also Natalia Malishev, another assistant of Epstein's, who sent him at least 20 different emails with the names and ages of young girls, sometimes with photos attached. One email, for example, reading, "My new friend, 17. Natalia would also frequently attach to these emails Russian modeling photos, and frequently it seems like she didn't get a response from Epstein, at least from what these reporters could see analyzing the emails. There's also an email from a different young woman named Irina sent to Natalia, Epstein's assistant, and his recruiter that states, quote, "Okay, this is redacted. Can you please forward Jeffrey info about her? She is 19 years old, Russian, from Odessa, came here with parents when she was 1.5, lives in Brooklyn. I met her in redacted when I went to admission office there. She is not a big girl, but a little curvy, 5'8", 130 pounds, pretty face, long brown hair, hazel eyes, and very important that she knows everybody in redacted. She studies there, public affairs, and she works in freshman office and guides all redacted's freshmen. And she knows many girls in Brooklyn as well. She is very friendly. And I already told her that she could be rewarded for help with her girlfriends, and she said that she can do it. But at first, needs to try herself to see what is it. Wants to be model and actress, as she told me. Nice personality, easygoing. What else? She doesn't smoke." End quote. Epstein, after seemingly checking out this potential future victim's resume and photograph, then emailed back, replying, "She is too big. However, if you think it important, I can do it one time in the afternoon. Tell her no nail polish." These emails expose the manipulative web, with prosecutors alleging that Ghislaine Maxwell herself directed the assistants of Jeffrey Epstein to act as recruiters for this operation, weaponizing wealth for control. I mean, you can see it here, the payments being made to these women, the emails where they're actually almost like Hollywood casting these girls, getting headshots, getting their weights, their measurements, talking about their personalities. Epstein's got these weird fetishes. He's saying no nail polish. He has something against bigger girls. They're talking about being beautiful and cute. I mean, it's just so eerie. And finally, some of the spreadsheet sample entries include entries like 2003 917 Cindy, food for Cindy, which is a $505 payment. There's money taken out for food for someone named AM. There's a gift to someone named Elena, a credit card charge for Amazon on Epstein's account. You can see that there's a credit card charge for Big Planet Adventure Outfitters, which is apparently a JE gift for Catherine. Now, this one's interesting. There's actually one here that is a AA Engravers Engraving JE gift Harney Weinstein, which I'm assuming was Harvey Weinstein. That's crazy. Epstein bought a book, Massage for Dummies, on Amazon, a Barnes & Noble massage book. There's a steps ballet class that he paid for, another steps ballet class for someone named Andrea. And these various charges illustrate the breadth of Epstein's purchases and gifting, from food to dance classes to even seemingly a gift for Harvey Weinstein himself, often accompanied by GM or Ghislaine Maxwell annotated on the sheet itself, blending Ghislaine's benevolence with coercion. By July 2006, after Palm Beach police referred their case against Epstein to the feds, Ghislaine Maxwell, somehow and for some reason, received a pilot's FBI contact email and forwarded the email to Epstein, asking Epstein in the email, quote, "What would you like me to tell him?" Epstein then replied, "Any message, phone contact," before instructing her to call his lawyer. A month later, another email was sent by Epstein to Maxwell, with the email instructing Maxwell to review and distribute an 11-page letter that appeared to be drafted under the name of Alan Dershowitz, a prominent Harvard Law School professor and member of Epstein's defense team at the time. The letter characterized the allegations against Epstein as highly fictionalized and described the Palm Beach Police Department's investigation as raw sewage, suggesting an attempt to discredit the accusations and the investigative process. The full quote from the email, as provided in the article, is, "You need to review and then organize to help distribute. Thanks." This communication occurred during a period when Epstein's legal troubles were escalating, following his July 2006 indictment for soliciting from a minor in Florida, which later expanded into a federal investigation. These emails and messages reflect a sort of coordinated damage control, with Ghislaine Maxwell being central to the unified front. Epstein's emails also show a deep sense of indignation from the man, of deep anger and upset, like through his fiery emails discussing updates on plea offers and his criminal case. Also, the leaked emails from Epstein's inbox mention Trump thrice, although he is mentioned minorly. For example, there's this email sent on September 14th, 2006 by Ghislaine Maxwell to Epstein, which reads, "Please review list and add or remove peeps." There were 51 names listed by Maxwell in this email to Epstein, including Donald Trump. However, Epstein sent back an email with a simple message, "Remove Trump." The purpose of this list being compiled by Ghislaine and why Trump was on it then removed from it is still unknown. There's also this email sent on August 23rd, 2007, amidst some Epstein-Maxwell lobbying efforts. On that day, Ghislaine wrote to Epstein saying, "You have to assume they went to Donald Trump, then Gossman, the docs in WPB, Paschow, etc., GPS. My email has changed to Gmax redacted. Please make a note," end quote. This was an email most likely in reference to reporters at the time seeking some sort of information or comment from Trump, Epstein, and the others involved after the notorious bidding war over the property in Florida that played a part in souring the relationship between Trump and Epstein. The email traffic between Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, as captured throughout this leaked cache, significantly tapered off after Epstein went to jail in June of 2008, where he served 13 months of an 18-month sentence before being released in July of 2009. This reduction in correspondence marked a notable shift in their communication patterns, aligning with Maxwell's later claims of a diminished role in Epstein's life, though the emails completely contradict her assertions of a complete disassociation. The exchanges did not resume in the cache until late 2014, a period when Ghislaine Maxwell began facing her own serious legal scrutiny following renewed public and media attention to Epstein's past By this time, the tone of Ghislaine Maxwell's emails had markedly changed, reflecting her altered circumstances as she transitioned from a position of relative security to one of defensive urgency amidst mounting allegations that were being made against her both legally, through the authorities, and in the public eye. On April 4th, 2014, the Daily Mail in London published a story that cited a legal document accusing Ghislaine Maxwell of participating in Epstein's of underage girls, which brought fresh spotlight to her involvement in the operation. The allegations in that story were brought forward by one of Epstein's most prominent victims, Virginia Giuffre, who at the time was still known publicly as Virginia Roberts. Just 3 days later, on April 7th, 2014, Ghislaine Maxwell sent Epstein a direct request via email saying, quote, "Can you send me the file on Virginia that your lawyers have, or whatever info you have on her?" indicating her proactive effort to gather intelligence on Giuffre to counter the emerging threats. That December, Virginia Giuffre escalated her legal actions by joining a victims' rights lawsuit that accused federal prosecutors in Florida of failing to notify Epstein's victims before signing off on his controversial 2007 non-prosecution agreement, which had shielded him from federal charges. In that lawsuit, Virginia Giuffre was identified anonymously as Jane Doe 3 and alleged that Epstein had her for purposes, detailing how she was exploited as part of his broader scheme. Virginia Giuffre then publicly identified Ghislaine Maxwell as one of the main women whom Epstein used to procure underage girls for and a primary co-conspirator in his positioning Ghislaine Maxwell at the center of the operation and intensifying the pressure on her. In response, Ghislaine Maxwell went on the offensive, as evidenced by the emails, adopting a more aggressive and desperate approach to discredit her accusers. On January 3rd, 2015, Ghislaine Maxwell circulated a 2-decade-old report from the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Department, which was stamped confidential and spanned 20 pages, recounting how Virginia Giuffre, at the age of 15, had accused 2 male acquaintances of though the complaint was ultimately dropped due to the victim's lack of credibility. In her email to Epstein citing this police report, Ghislaine Maxwell highlighted the damaging details, saying, quote, "Virginia's mother references her use and possible involvement in witchcraft," end quote, aiming to undermine Virginia Giuffre's reliability by emphasizing alleged personal flaws and past inconsistencies. Over the next 2 weeks, Ghislaine Maxwell peppered Epstein with additional urgent emails, including repeated pleas like, "Please call me back," reflecting her growing anxiety and need for immediate help. On January 13th, 2015, Ghislaine Maxwell forwarded Epstein an email chain between her lawyer and Epstein's lawyer that discussed, in part, how Virginia Giuffre's allegations could prompt a new police investigation into Maxwell in the United Kingdom, signaling the international ramifications of the accusations and Ghislaine Maxwell's efforts to coordinate a legal defense. These communications collectively demonstrated Maxwell's shift to an offensive strategy against her accusers, where she actively sought and disseminated compromising information to tarnish the accusers' reputations and try to protect herself. The change in tone from earlier emails, which were often logistical or even affectionate, to these later ones marked by desperation and aggression and anxiety, mirrored Maxwell's evolving circumstances as the legal threats closed in. And that seems to be the end of the emails released so far. Remember, there's 18,000 emails that all have to be analyzed, but those seem to be the details from Epstein's inbox from this one email account. There's so many email accounts associated with Epstein. There's so many finds here. I mean, I think personally, the revelation of the spreadsheet is absolutely incredible. I mean, you cannot get a more clear-cut piece of evidence that Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were paying these women, especially buying lingerie or a bra for a 16-year-old girl, and paying a victim's father, which people have testified before this all came out was happening. It just seems to me that it's so insightful to this case. And you can see, very interestingly too, in my opinion, Ghislaine Maxwell's progression from really solid and really happy and affectionate, kind of joking about Epstein going to jail, to all of a sudden freaking out, emergency plan, and then boom, everything, the rug is pulled from underneath them, which I'm assuming she and Epstein never thought would actually happen. But it did. People found out too much. People started talking. Accusers and women started coming out. They couldn't kill all of them. They couldn't remove all of them. They couldn't silence all of them. And so Epstein ended up dead. And according to Ghislaine Maxwell, she's innocent. According to Ghislaine Maxwell and what she told the Trump administration official, Todd Blanche, she's innocent. Trump's innocent. Everybody's innocent. I never saw anything. But this evidence, which is just the bottom of a massive pile of evidence, seems to say directly otherwise. On this channel, I've been diving into Epstein for at least a year now. On my TikTok, I've been diving into Epstein for years, at least 4 years. I've been making videos about Epstein, and I'm not going to stop. So if you've enjoyed today's deep dive and you want to stay up to date with all the rapidly unfolding developments in this disturbing case, please consider subscribing to the channel. Please like the video. Leave me a comment in the comment section letting me know what aspect of Epstein you'd like to see me cover next, because there's so many that are so interesting. I know I'm doing a deep dive on Clinton and Zorro Ranch soon, but let me know what else you'd like to hear me talk about in relation to Epstein, because these data dumps are so telling and they just keep happening. And I wonder what the breaking point is going to be. The breaking point is going to be when everybody finally actually stands up and gets legitimately pissed and stops voting for people that are engaging in the cover-up. And they wake up to the fact that the people that they love to death are most likely involved in that pandered to the world's elite as a part of a blackmail gathering operation for both domestic and foreign intelligence agencies. Anyways, y'all, thank you for watching. Always question everything. Keep that tinfoil hat on. Stay suspicious. And I'll see you next week.